So the 2023 F1 season is over at the start of the year. I predicted where everyone would finish. Let's see just how wrong I am. I've made sure to avoid looking at this video. I cannot remember for the life of me what I predicted. It's more fun that way. So take a seat, get a drink, get a meal deal maybe. I've got my Christmas banger, my turkey and trimming sandwich, my McCoy's cheese and onion, and they didn't have San Pellegrino lemon, which is my favourite, but I've got a green machine instead. Come on then, Tommo of the past. Let's see how bad it is. I'm not expecting much. 2023 predictions time, let's get straight into it. Starting with a few categories I want to outline before then we go through the entire 20 drivers and the entire 10 teams. I'm wearing a very similar shirt, both from Wax actually. That one shrunk in the wash though, which I'm really annoyed about. Starting with most improved, I'm going with Zhou Guanyu. I think last season was good. Zhou Guanyu certainly was not the most improved driver in 2023. If anything, that second half of the season, I think it's gone a bit backwards. I'm getting a degree of Antonio Giovinazzi energy. I'm not going to lie. But my full ranking is going to come later this week. Who was the most improved? Let's ask Minton. He can obviously smell my sandwich, so he's come out to play. Who do you think was most improved in 2023, mate? Look at his little nose. You know something's about, didn't you? Well, it's not for you, it's for me. I think there's an argument for Yuki. I think Yuki's had a strong season. He's still made his mistakes, but he's had a good season, and he was all right last year, better than his first year, but I think he's stepped on this year. Maybe Fernando Alonso. I think this Aston Martin has allowed him to really show that he's still about, whereas in that Alpine, it was a bit Let me know what you think. I think Yuki or Fernando probably for me. Most improved team is a pretty easy one, having seen testing. I'm going for Aston Martin. Now, do I think they're going to reach the heights that a lot of people are saying? So this is the benefit of me doing the predictions after testing, because we saw the Aston Martin was slapping. Obviously, yeah, they fell away a bit mid-season, right? But they are definitely the most improved team this season versus 2022. If Stroll had turned up at the start of the year, they might have even held on to P4, maybe even P3. Probably not P3 in the constructors, but there was a chance. I think this one's going to stay with us for the rest of the video. Give a like for Minton. Also, this video has reminded me I definitely need a haircut. You can see how my hair kind of shrooms out at a point. But there you go. What about closest teammates? Closest pairing, most toe-to-toe. There's a lot of potential driver pairings for this one. But actually, I'm going to say Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc. Carlos started the season slow last year, but not quite. To be fair, points-wise, there was only 6 points between them in the end. Qualifying-wise, it was, 14-8 to Charles, if you just look at non-sprint qualifying anyway. They were close. I would say, were they the closest, actually? Gasly and Ocon were close. Gasly definitely had the measure on Ocon a bit, but not by much. Hamilton, Russell, 11 all in qualifying, but then Hamilton got a lot more points than Russell. Maybe there is actually an argument. Maybe it was Carlos and Charles. Charles definitely excelled in quali, but this is overall, and you have to consider race pace and race performance more than you do qualifying performance. I might actually give myself a tick on this one, because actually they may well have been the closest teammates this year. Someone's got to be last, and I'm afraid I'm going with Nick de Vries. I think that AlphaTauri car, I don't have a huge amount. He actually wasn't P20, he was P22 in the end. I couldn't possibly have predicted, maybe I should have predicted that it'd be dropped, but someone would be dropped, and it would probably be an AlphaTauri driver. It's a shame for him that he lost the drive. I think at the end of the day, Liam Lawson, specifically Liam Lawson, coming in and doing such a good job as a rookie, much younger than Nick as well, did kind of validate Red Bull's decision to drop Nick de Vries. Look, what is he doing? He's doing Formula E now, right? And he's gone to Harvard. So, you know what? He seems to be doing fine. P19, Logan Sargent, I do think he's going to take well to F1 this year. Take well to F1 this year. You know what? He's showed something, but the mistakes have been his downfall. Piastri has not made the mistakes that Sargent has. And even though they've both got top quality teammates in Lando and in Alex, yeah, it's been a bit disappointing. It's still very much on the fence whether he keeps that seat next year, because Vowles could have confirmed it if he really wanted to after Abu Dhabi, but he didn't. I've got last and second last kind of correct. It's just the numbers are a bit out of kilter because Red Bull can't make their bloody minds up about their drivers. P18, Yuki Tsunoda. I do think he'll beat Nick de Vries this year in a car that's going to be towards the back, because start of the season, the AlphaTauri was rubbish. With the upgrades, more upgrades than anyone else, it moved on, and Yuki definitely took a step up. You know I love Yuki, and I wasn't backing him massively. I was backing him to beat his teammate, but to finish where he did, P14 in the end, Yuki Tsunoda. P18 predicted on this list. I'll accept the L. He did better than I thought he would. That car as well did definitely take a step forward and was not the worst car by the end of the year. P17, Alex Albon, Williams and AlphaTauri drivers are taking up my bottom four, and they were the bottom two teams last season. They were the bottom two teams the season before, but not this year. The thing is, like, Williams didn't really upgrade after Canada, Silverstone, that kind of time. Didn't upgrade the car anymore. And Alex, when he got the opportunities, he only bottled it once, which was in Australia. Obviously, I've overestimated Alfa Romeo and Haas here. I feel like I might have predicted Alfa Romeo quite high. I feel like I'm remembering my predictions a little bit, which is it's going to be a bit awkward. But there you go. Pleasantly surprised. Okay, reverse jinxes on Tsunoda and Albon worked an absolute treat. P16, Nico Hülkenberg. Look, I do think Nico's going to do a good job. And he did. He did do a good job, especially in qualifying. Capitalise where they could in a car that just couldn't hang on to its tyres for anything, right? P16, spot on. Yes, obviously 22 drivers in reality versus 20, but whatever. I got it right. That's all that matters. Because then P15, Oscar Piastri. McLaren. Look. McLaren have... This stinks of me doing this after testing. Let me know in the comments below. I'll pin a comment whether I should do my next predictions before or after testing, because obviously we saw McLaren have no pace and the turnaround has been phenomenal. Sorry, Oscar, you had to be the fall guy, which means that Lando's probably coming quite soon. And given Oscar finished, P9, it's not looking good, brev. These have stunk so far. Which means Kevin Magnussen sits P14. So K-Mag above Hülkenberg, yeah. I thought K-Mag, given the experience he had at that team, Hülkenberg just coming in for his first year at that team, he would be ahead of Nico. He was P19 in the end. Why do you even listen to me? I just clearly do not know what I'm talking about. So yeah, Lando Norris P13. Mate, I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? I feel... This is a difficult experience watching this back. Yes, it is. Yeah, Tommo of the past. You're correct. With the fluff on your chin as well, which is really annoying. I don't know how I didn't notice that in the edit. Yeah, Lando P13 predicted. P6 in the end. Could quite easily have been P4. He was only 1 point. Who would have got it on countback? Let's just say 2 points. 2 points away from P4, and I predicted him P13. Moving on. P12. I have gone Valtteri Bottas. Bottas P12. In reality, he was P15. Clearly I'm propping Alpha here, and that clearly was a mistake. Glimpses again, Hungary both into Q3. Glimpses throughout the season, but nowhere near consistent. Not as bad as Haas on their tyres, but not as quick as Haas over a lap as well. Alfa Romeo, Sauber, well, not going to be Alfa Romeo anymore, not after this season. It's sad to see such a historic name bow out of the sport in such a unceremoniously midway. I haven't put his teammate P12. Put Joe P11. Again, he started good relative to Valtteri. It was close between the two of them. I'd never say Joe was better than Bottas, but they were on a very even level. And then this second half of the season, Bottas has just flexed. Which, is that Bottas improving? Is that Joe regressing? I like to think it's the prior. I hope it's not the latter, because they're both in the seat for next year. And Tao Porcher's just one F2. You know, Sauber Driver Academy. It is a bit mad he's not in that car. You can't lie. P10, I'm going with Lance Stroll. Now, this is in part because I am anticipating he is going to miss at least the first race of the season. He didn't. And he actually put a very good performance in Bahrain. Obviously, this was filmed after he did his hand in. And actually, the start of the year was the good part for Lance, wasn't it? This is the second correct one. Okay, Hülkenberg was correct. Lance to P10. That is what actually happened. So, what I mean? P9, I've put Pierre Gasly. Yes, so of the Alpine teammates, I'll put Pierre P9 and I'll put Esteban P8. So they're together. Okay. They're ahead of the McLaren. So I've not by much, but I've definitely over-indexed on Alpine. They were P11 Gasly and P12 Ocon in the end. Just 4 points between them. So it's pretty close. I think they had the potential to outscore Stroll. I mean, Stroll, was 12 ahead of Gasly, 16 ahead of Ocon. If there'd have been a bit more consistent and technical gremlins for Ocon and questionable strategy on Gasly's point of view at times. But I predicted they were going to be pretty mid, and they were pretty mid. They were more mid than I predicted, actually. So, well done, Alpine. You continue to not surprise us all. Any of us. None of us at all. We're not shocked. P7, I'm going with Fernando Alonso. I've not put an Aston Martin driver in the top 6, but I do think Fernando's going to be the one to extract the performance from that car. Like, it's interesting that they say that, 95% of that Aston Martin is different to last year. And, yeah, I mean, clearly was. And I remember at the time we saw testing, we saw the Aston Martins be quick, but I didn't fully sign up for it, I guess, right? I was still somewhat, is this really the pace? And it was. I was wrong. I mean, Fernando finished P4 in the end. He could have quite easily finished P7, to be honest. He was only 6 points off of P7. Carlos Sainz behind him. Where Stroll would run Seb somewhat close the year before. Seb was better than Stroll in 22, but like somewhat close. I didn't expect the battering that Fernando gave Stroll. I maybe should have expected that, but I thought Stroll would take in a bit of a step forward. Whereas Fernando has over-indexed for sure, and as much as that Aston Martin did eventually fall away, you would have thought early on that P3, maybe even P2 in the drivers was very much on, especially with Checo's gremlins, but Aston Martin weren't able to sustain it in the end. P6, I am putting George Russell, Mercedes, and I'm putting Lewis P5. So, yeah, it's I double. So George P6, Lewis P5. In real life, George was P8 for what was 25 plus 34, 59 points between them in the end. Lewis was definitely better in the races than George, for sure. George did have his fair share of mistakes, obviously points he gave away in Singapore and Canada, and then Lewis obviously got the P2 taken off him with a disqualification, blah, blah, blah. Lewis was definitely the better driver overall this year, no doubt. And I did put Lewis above George, but typically the third quickest car, rarely the second. But if you can consistently be third and then that second place car is changing from Aston to McLaren to Ferrari, then, with drivers like George Russell and Lewis Hamilton, as amazing as they are, you've got a chance of holding on. So then P4, I'm putting Checo. So the Red Bull does look solid, does look balanced, does look good. You can say that again. Tommo, you can say that again, but not in the hands of that man, Sergio Perez. I predicted him P4. He was P2, of course. I'm sorry. In a car that absolutely dominant, like Max showed the potential of that car, Checo should have got P2 wrapped up way before. Way before he did. If there was a clear second quickest car, again, same thing I said with Mercedes. Because there wasn't a clear second quickest car, they were able to get P2 in the constructors. Also, because there wasn't a clear second quickest car and quickest driver, like in the Seb Vettel era, right, when he was dominating, it was Alonso in the Ferrari. Because we didn't have that, Checo was able to hold on to P2, but the points gap, 290 points. 290 points between teammates. That's insane. That's an average of 13.1818181818 points per race difference between the two of them. Is Daniel Ricciardo the answer? I don't know, because I've been a bit disappointed since he jumped into that AlphaTauri. I was expecting a bit more. I know he had the injury. It's impossible to know how much that positive, negative, well, it certainly didn't positively affect him, how much that took away from him. But at the same time, Perez is not close enough to Max. If they get in a title fight next year and another team catches up Red Bull somewhat, he will be the problem that stops them getting a constructors. Maybe Max can just do it on his own again, and then they don't have to worry too much. But they would be risky to assume that. So here's my top 3. Carlos Sainz, P3. And I do think Charles will outperform him this year. I do think it will be close. That's why I put him in my closest teammate pairing. I do think he's going to make it difficult for Fred. Don't see where I'm wrong there. I think Carlos really did step up this year. He got the win in the end. Him and Charles scrapping in Monza. I think Carlos was a bit over the line there, to be honest, but they just about kept it clean. I think that is the perfect driver dynamic. The best teammate balance in Formula 1 right now. I really do. They're both stacked with experience now. Charles is an incredible natural talent. He has that raw pace. If Ferrari can tick all the other boxes, I feel like they've got the drivers. I think that they're not going to be scrapping each other in the same way that Hamilton and Russell are. Don't get me wrong, I'm not naive, right? If it comes to a title fight, then gloves come off, of course, right? Already bubbling over with George and Lewis. And I just feel this Ferrari partnership. I really do. For next year, I just don't feel that Ferrari are going to bring the car. And what a face to pause on, by the way. Look at that. Awful. Charles Leclerc, P2. He's not going to win the title. Charles Leclerc, again. P2. But look, it was a good recovery at the end of the season because things did not start well. Imagine his car breaking down in Bahrain, for example. But he recovered all the way to P5. And he was, a point off of P4. I still back the prediction. Ferrari were very close to P2 in the constructors, but Ferrari gonna Ferrari sometimes, and Charles gonna Charles sometimes. You know, he's got to take a degree of responsibility for some of the incidents this year. But at the end of the day, that Red Bull package was just far too clear. And I mean, can I give myself a pat on the back for predicting Max P1? Do I think he'll win the title? No, I think that's going to go to P1, which is Max Verstappen, because it's hard to look past like what is Max's weakness at the moment. You know, you look at that car, they've evolved on that philosophy. You know, taken what they've already got and they've improved on it. But I just think that Max is just gonna do it again. Because why wouldn't I? Do I think it's going to be as convincing as it was last year? No, because I think the rest of the competitive field, I think everyone is going to be closer than last year.
Fraud. It was way more convincing than it was last year. I naively expected everyone else to catch up more than they did, and Red Bull to not just continue to make another step forward, which is what they did as well. So there you go. Those were my predictions, and the reality was very different, but that's probably my worst ones I've done today, I think. I've had a howler with the Alfa Romeos, a howler with Tsunoda and Albon as well towards the back. Bit of a howler with Alonso, to be honest, not fully back in that as well. And a bit too much faith in Ferrari. But again, Alpine midness is about right. Hulkenberg was on, Stroll was on, Verstappen was on. 3 out of 20. Appreciate you for watching. My name's Tommo. Thanks again. Have a good one.